So after I gave him the ultimatum, he just looked at me in my face and was like, if you feel like you need to move, move. And so we went through 3 months of like chicken, where I had no friends in Vegas, no family in Vegas. I just really blurted that out. I did not mean it. I had no intention. I had no job. I had nothing. I had no plans on moving to Vegas. I thought I was going to force this man to propose to me. So the last day I was putting my stuff in the car, he came over and helped me put my stuff in the car.
Rarely work on confident men. Such men value their independence and self-respect too much to be manipulated by threats or demands. When faced with an ultimatum, they are more likely to choose the option that preserves their dignity and autonomy, even if it means losing the relationship.
There's been so many times where women say to me, it's like, oh, I told him I want a divorce, but hoping he'd come back for me, but he let me pack my bags. So sometimes they file for divorce or take it that far as a way of testing their partner. And if they're with quite a healthy partner, they'll think you mean it.
Trying to manipulate a confident man with ultimatums is like playing with fire. It might work on someone who's unsure of themselves or relies heavily on their partner, but with a mature and self-assured guy, you're just asking to push him away. So, if you value the relationship, it's best to steer clear of these tactics and focus on open communication and mutual respect instead.
Now, the problem is, unfortunately for men, when we push you and you succumb to us, you automatically lose us. What we're saying when we're pushing you is really make sure you don't give in to this, because if you do, then I know you're not strong enough.
Oh my God, give me an example.
It might be something like I push a man to say, I'm going to come home when I want. I'm going to come on girls' trips. I'm going to do whatever I want. And then when you actually give in and say, okay, essentially she feels like she's not being protected. So she feels like nobody's governing her.
You don't have a spine.
You're not responsible. Or she might say, I'm talking to my ex-boyfriend, and you say, I don't feel comfortable with that. She'll be like, no, you have to, I have to. Fine, he accepts it. Essentially, she's saying that you don't mind if I have an affair. Bye. Essentially, what we're begging for is sometimes is the boundary. We're not looking for you to bow down. So hard for men to figure that out, though.
Right.
I feel so bad
So
for men.
funny.
It's like reverse psychology all the time, unfortunately.
Women should learn to stop saying things they don't mean. When your partner suddenly, out of the blue, drops the D word, divorce, it's like a bombshell, hitting you with the force of a freight train. Now, in any healthy relationship, divorce shouldn't be tossed around lightly. It's a serious, life-altering decision that shouldn't be used as a bargaining chip or a means to test your partner's loyalty. The D word as a tactic to manipulate or test her partner. She's playing with fire. A man who knows his worth, who has a backbone and options, won't stoop to controlling tactics or desperate pleas to keep her around. Instead, he'll gracefully step aside and let her go on her way, knowing that he deserves better than to be held hostage by ultimatums and mind games. Because let's face it, if you're going to play with fire, you better be prepared to get burned.
Always threatening to leave you because she knows that you love her very much. If you are dating a girl who is always threatening you with a breakup because you have proven your love to her both with your words and your actions. If you are with a woman who is always threatening to leave you because she knows that you have invested a lot into her and that it will be hard for you to just break up with her. If you are with this kind of woman who threatens you with a breakup just to make you feel bad and make you move to her controls, then you are dating a Delilah. You are with a Delilah. Any woman who uses a breakup to make you fall back in line and start simping for her is a chief manipulator.
Giving an ultimatum, especially one as serious as threatening divorce, is like playing with dynamite. You never know when it might blow up in your face. And if you're not ready to face the consequences, then perhaps it's best to think twice before issuing such a decree. Listen to what she said here.
Now, the problem is, unfortunately for men, when we push you and you succumb to us, you automatically lose us.
Once a man caves into your demands, it's like opening Pandora's box. You can't put those demons back in. It's game over, relationship-wise. The dynamic shifts, and suddenly, it's all about catering to her whims and wishes, walking on eggshells to avoid setting her off. And let me tell you, that's a slippery slope straight to relationship ruin. You know, sometimes we think giving in is the easy way out, like putting a band-aid on a gaping wound. But in reality, it's like pouring gasoline on a fire. It only fuels the flames. Because the moment you bend to her will, you're setting a precedent for future behavior. She'll see it as a green light to keep pushing, keep testing, to see just how far she can go before you break. Now, she might argue that these tests are some kind of evolutionary hangover, a throwback to a time when survival meant putting your partner through the ringer to make sure they could handle the heat. But let me tell you something. Evolutionary biology or not, using something as serious as marriage as a testing ground is a recipe for disaster. A healthy, mature man will take her words at face value, believing that she means what she says. And if she's not prepared to follow through on her threats, well, she's in for a rude awakening. Here's the thing. A real man, a mature man, doesn't play games. He doesn't have time for the drama and manipulation that come with ultimatums and mind games. So if you're going to put him against the wall, you better be damn sure you mean it, because he won't stick around for long if he senses even a whiff of uncertainty. But here's where it gets really interesting. When she drops the ultimatum bomb without fully realizing the consequences. Suddenly, she's caught in a web of her own making, scrambling to undo the damage before it's too late. But let me tell you, once those words are out there, once the trust is broken, it's like trying to unring a bell. The damage is done, and there's no going back. So the next time she's tempted to play the ultimatum card, she better think long and hard about whether she's willing to live with the fallout. Because once she opens that door, there's no shutting it again. And she might just find herself on the outside looking in, wondering how it all went so wrong. Now let's get into the story of a woman who thought it was a good idea to give her partner of 3 years an ultimatum about marriage. She was eager to take the next step, but he wasn't quite on the same page. So she decided to turn up the heat and apply some pressure. Little did she know, it would all blow up in her face, leaving her with regrets. Let's look at this.
Divorce my husband. Why did I divorce my husband? I divorced my husband because I was making a certain amount of money. I divorced my husband because I thought I didn't need him anymore. I divorced my husband because I had this senior position at work and thought I held the same position at home. I divorced my husband because I thought I was better than him because I had my degree now. I divorced my husband because I thought a successful marriage meant I was here and he was down here. That is not success. That's fucking sickness. All the while, my husband done found somebody else building a relationship and building a life with them.
Who in their right mind thought it was smart to pressure a grown man into marriage? Why would you even go that far to force someone into such a serious commitment? And even if you did manage to coerce him, would it really be worth it? This has got to be the worst possible tactic for getting a man to marry you. It's like trying to build a house on quicksand. It's just not going to hold up. Especially not with a man who's got his head screwed on right.
For 3 months, he was like, do what you gotta do. You wanna move, move. So on the last day I was putting my stuff in the car, he came over and helped me put my stuff in the car. And we putting stuff in the trunk and I just started crying. I'm like, you really gonna let me leave? He looked at me and he said, have a safe trip.
We love this man understood that ultimatums are unending once you give in. There's no stopping what comes next. This guy was wise not to budge. Giving in to an ultimatum only exposes the weakness of the person issuing it. It's like handing your opponent a shovel and asking them to dig their own grave. A man commented that it's the same story with his wife. Once, during an argument, she threatened to leave, and he just calmly told her, "We both know where the door is. If you want to leave, go ahead." It's baffling sometimes how people think. If you want a guy to propose, why not let it happen naturally? Instead of resorting to ultimatums, why not become the kind of woman he'd want to marry? Understand his desires and aspirations, and work on yourself to become his ideal partner. That's the surest way to ignite his passion and commitment towards marriage. She only realized his true character when it hit her hard. Imagine the person you gave an ultimatum helping you to pack. It was a wake-up call. He wasn't bluffing, and she was left regretting her actions. She learned the tough lesson that you don't play games with a mature man. I'm surprised she didn't see his resolve when he told her to do what she needed to do. She should have known then that he meant it. He wasn't playing around. He'd only do what he truly wanted, and she had to accept it or walk away. In the next video, we'll see how to spark a man's interest in marriage without resorting to ultimatums. It's a tale of how a man's stance changed without pressure. He was even ready to tie the knot the very next day. Let's look at it.
Red bean. Like I was saying, I think we should just stay friends, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not ready for a relationship. Like, you know, I'm just not ready for all that right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, real talk. Damn. Crispy chicken. You say you cooked there? You did there? Cornbread. Cornbread.
As you just witnessed, it doesn't take much to sway a man's mind when it comes to relationships and marriage. We guys are pretty straightforward. Once we find what we've been searching for, we're all in. No need for any fancy ultimatums or drama. Just good cooking like that. Here's the thing most women might not realize. We're not all that complicated. When we meet someone who clicks with us, we're ready to take things to the next level. So, it was kinda sad seeing that woman in the last video trying to pressure her guy into marriage. If he didn't pop the question after 3 years, it's because he wasn't feeling it. We don't need anyone else telling us when to tie the knot. That's something we decide on our own terms. Now let's talk about the guy enjoying his meal. Did you notice how his whole vibe changed? 1 minute he's saying he's not ready for a relationship, and the next, he's talking about marriage. That's the power of good food right there. He was even ready to bring his boxers over. He didn't want to risk losing her to someone else, so he was all in for making it official ASAP. This just goes to show, a woman who knows her way around the kitchen has some serious influence. One bite of her cooking, and he's ready to commit for life. That's some next level power right there. Lastly, we have a woman who was shocked after realizing not all men are pushovers. Let's have a look at her story.
I don't want to go to your house. He's like, oh, okay, then I'm gonna drop you back home. And I'm like, what? I cannot believe at this point in my life, I'm like, okay. So then like I had something, okay, at 10 p.m. So then I told him like, oh, can you at least drop me where I'm going? Like, so then I will stay there. He's like, I'm not gonna drive all the way there. You know what I told him via text? I told him like, look, the last thing you will hear from me is that you deserve the people that you're with. Like you deserve the woman that you're with, because we're talking about a man that he doesn't know what it's like to do effort for a woman. He's like, let's go buy a pack of donuts and we will go to my house. Why? For what? Why would I go to your house? Even if it's not the first time I see you, why would I do that? Guys, can you imagine the shock? So he dropped me back home, okay? And I'm like, okay, thank you for the tour. You gave me a tour in the city. Loved it.
He is not your taxi. Be thankful he offered to drop you off at your house. He could have just said goodbye and let you walk home. He's absolutely right. Why would he put in effort if he's not getting anything in return? Even birds put on a show to impress their mates before they get the action they want. He's not your Uber. Asking him to take you to another place was out of line. It's clear you still don't understand the difference between boys and decent guys, and now you're creating drama after wasting his time. She was dealing with a confident man and didn't realize it. She thought he was just another pushover she was used to, but he made things clear. This is what happens when men who are pushovers spoil women to the point where they think they're entitled to special treatment without giving anything in return. She expected him to be her personal driver, but he was smart and confident enough to say no. That's why she made this video, but hopefully, she learned something from it. Now she knows not all men are pushovers. What's interesting here is how quickly she realized her mistake. The moment he stood his ground, she saw that he wasn't someone to be messed with. This was a wake-up call for her, and, hopefully, for others watching. If you want to be treated well, you need to treat others well too. Respect is mutual. Alright guys, we've come to the end of this video, and if you enjoyed it, Do well to click on the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to check other videos on our playlist. We've got some amazing contents for you. See you in our next video.